Welcome back to the Own It Show. I'm Heather Lee Chapman, your host and coach, and today we're talking about how to manage perimenopause with Andrea Jang, who is the founder of PERIBLOOM, an online platform that is focused on helping women during menopause to own their own whole body health. So grateful to have you here today, Andrea. Please tell us more about yourself.
Thank you so much, Heather. It's so nice to be on today. And again, as you mentioned, I am the founder of PeriBloom, an online platform focused on helping women during perimenopause to own their whole body health. And what does whole body health even mean? For PeriBloom, that is identifying the 4 pillars of health from mindfulness, fitness, nutrition, and supplementation, and looking at that in conjunction with your biomarkers that you're getting from your primary care physician. So historically, we go to get your annual blood checkups maybe once a year, maybe not even. And then you get a series of these tests back and you're told, okay, you're within range, you're fine, or you're not, you got to check these here, let's get a prescription. And then that's basically it. And so what I found is that during perimenopause, a lot of women are starting to struggle with what's going on. There's these little things that don't really feel great. And even though my primary care physician's telling me that I'm within range on everything, I'm still not feeling my optimal best. I don't feel the same way I did when I was in my 20s or in my 30s. And why is that? And the same thing started happening to me at a pretty young age. And I would say that the reason why I even started looking into developing PeriBloom is because I wasn't getting all the answers from my primary healthcare physician. And this is at a time over 10 years ago when perimenopause wasn't even a term that was widely talked about. No one used that term. In fact, I would say most people probably didn't even know what menopause was. They probably just knew, oh, it's something that's going to happen in the future, and then I'm not going to have my period anymore. And it's going to come with a whole series of things that are going to make me really moody. And I'll have these things called hot flashes. And I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It's probably not going to happen for a very long time. So I don't really care. Well, now we know that that's not even the definition of menopause. Menopause is really 12 months without a cycle. Again, 12 months without a cycle. But leading up to those 12 months without a cycle, you can have a whole host of things happening to your body for up to 15 years that we never even thought about in the past, where your hormones are changing and gradually your body is adapting and going into a stage where you're no longer going to have your period anymore, and you won't be able, your reproductive years are slowing down. So if you think about it, it's almost like the reverse of puberty, but it can be for much, much longer. And we all know about adolescence. We all know about puberty. Not only have most of us have already gone through it, unless we're very young and watching this Facebook stream today, but there's a lot of literature around it. And guess what? There's a lot of membership and community and literature for women on fertility, on postpartum, on all hosts of other health conditions, but there's very little about perimenopause and menopause. This has changed in recent years because, it's gotten very popular in the media. There's a ton of social media now, but there's still not a really good single source of truth. And there's very little educational content or credible resources out there that are easy for women to find. There definitely are places and resources out there, but we're being inundated with so much information today, for good or for bad. And the problem is distilling through all that information. That's a really big challenge. And what I also want to say is that we can't treat our health the same way a lot of us treat other, discretionary spend items. So, when you're young, or even today, you're talking to your girlfriends, you're like, oh my God, I love that new nail polish that you're wearing. Like, what is it? I'm going to try it too. You should not be doing that with supplements. You should not be doing that with prescription medications. You should not be testing new things on your body like you are the latest science fair experiment. We need to learn how to prioritize our health better so that we can serve others in the way that we want to and really take full agency of our health and our well-being so that we can be our best selves for everyone around us. I think in society, we've also learned that, you know, we're taught that as women, we are caregivers, we are mothers, we are like amazing employees, we're really hard workers, but we're constantly serving others. We're helping our boss look great, we're helping our kids look amazing, we're helping our partners feel the best they can, we're helping aging parents, we're helping our friends, we're always helping others, and we're deprioritizing ourselves. What if just for a minute, you start thinking through what are the key factors and what are the important things that I need to do for myself? Very simple tips, tricks, and practices that I can incorporate into my day, my very, very busy day, that gives me time for myself and prioritizes me.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm just so grateful that you've created Perry Bloom and that you're bringing the conversation to the forefront for women's health because, like you said, it hasn't been a part of the conversation. We really didn't know much about it, and women are the last person to put themselves first.
They really are. And really, my vision with Perry Bloom, as it's in very early stages right now, is to build a membership-based dual-sided marketplace connecting women with functional medicine practitioners that can really see the full picture of your whole body health. So looking at your fitness goals, looking at your nutrition, looking at your supplementation, and what type of mindfulness practices you're doing, and working in concert with your biomarkers and tracking your health in all of these contexts. Um, I think that it's just so important for us to focus not in silos, but really look at everything as a comprehensive platform so that your fitness instructor knows what are you eating, at what times are you eating, and how are you supplementing, and vice versa. Your dietitian knows, oh, this is the type of fitness you're doing at this time of the month, at this stage, at this time of the day. And maybe this is why you can't fall asleep as well at night, or maybe we need to dial this back. We need to do this instead. And then also looking at, are you doing anything to help with your mind? And not talking about just, we think about, okay, your mind, your brain, we're going to go to school, we're going to learn all the things, we're going to study really hard. That's really exercising our muscle, our brain muscle, but it's also the mindfulness piece of it. Like, are we reflecting on things that bring us joy? What are we grateful for? Let's set intentions. Let's set intention to even, I mean, for myself, I had to set an intention to smile every day because I wanted to start the day feeling happier and also exude a happier energy and presence to those around me. And it really did help. It sounds crazy, and I promise you, this is not the way I'm hardwired. I'm very fully in my left brain. I live in New York City. I live a very fast pace, and I was in a very, high pressure, bias to action, male dominated work environment for almost 20 years, coupled with going to, getting advanced degrees, studying all the time and achieving, and looking for all these external validation points to really, I think it was really a little bit of this, I don't know, just feeling like I didn't belong until I could get these certifications. And really dealing with like this nagging imposter syndrome of, okay, if I have these external validation factors, then that's what's going to make me belong. And while I was hitting all of these like external accolades and achieving things that I never even really thought of achieving, then I'm very, very grateful for all the opportunities that have been afforded to me and given to me in life. And internally, there was just something was missing. And it was really starting to break down. And I was starting to experience all these subclinical issues and health issues where the doctor really couldn't name one specific thing of why my blood sugar was spiking when it seemed like I was eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle and working out, or why was I experiencing chronic extreme back and neck pain that just wouldn't go away with as much massage therapy, acupuncture, or anything I was doing to help relieve this muscle pain. It was just not going away. And all I everyone would tell me is that you're just living a really stressful life. And but no tips, no tricks, nothing to really get me to a better place, but also not clinical enough that I would be prescribed anything, which is probably, thankfully, it was never clinical at a clinical degree that I was put on medication. But I was also never given any guidance on like what tips and tricks in like terms of mindfulness practices or, um, you know, even looking at my nutrition and how I was fueling myself and when I was eating and how I was eating throughout the day. This is never anything that I was really fully educated on. And I didn't even know where to look. And I start to realize, you know what? This isn't only a me problem. This is going on for women, even men everywhere. And I was seeing it not only from my peers, but I was seeing it with the people that I reported to as well. And I had mentors and bosses who told me like they had to retire early because they were dealing with health issues that they just couldn't keep going. And I'm wondering to myself, is that what it is? Like we just have to exit the workplace to be able to find a healthier life? I don't believe so. I really think that there is a way in which we can balance having healthy, ambitious careers, but also be able to have really good communication patterns in the workplace so that we can bring our best selves to work and do our best work in as healthy and nurturing of an environment as we can have.
And I think that's so important. I heard a statistic recently, and I'm hoping I get this right, that it was about approximately a third of the women exit the workforce during like what they would say menopause, but obviously perimenopause, right before the 12 months, because one, they can't manage the symptoms and the stress of work. And then the environment isn't flexible in a way to support them for what they're going through. And so we can imagine all these women, as you said, like, is there not a way that we can do both? Have the healthy lifestyle, thrive and own menopause and perimenopause, and be able to keep working. And not that it's the end, that it's actually a transformation, and there's so much beyond this point in life. And so let's make that possible. And it all starts with the conversation, actually just talking about women's health, bringing it forward, and then creating something like what you're creating, a place where people can actually get resources, be looked at as a whole, learn that there's options and opportunities to thrive beyond perimenopause and keep going in their careers or businesses and jobs, and that it's not this hush hush, let's just pretend it's not happening, because we're half the population. and it's super important that we talk about it so that women can get the right support, have the right knowledge, and like you said, even though they were giving you some form of a diagnosis, there wasn't really recommendations. So even a place where people can go and get those tips and tricks and recommendations. So I want to dive right into the tips, because you've already talked a little bit about whole body health, but I would love to hear a little bit more about, like, what does whole body health mean to you, and the importance of being in tune with our body, with how we feel and how we think, and why that's like the number one tip for us to be able to start to thrive through perimenopause.
Right. So for me, again, whole body health really encompasses the pillars of mindfulness, fitness, and movement, nutrition and supplementation. And I break down nutrition and supplementation to two different buckets because supplements are not food. They are meant to supplement foods and nutrients that you don't absorb readily from the foods you eat, or maybe you have a couple dietary restrictions, so there's certain things you can't eat, and so you need to supplement them with a supplement. But supplement should never replace food. And in fact, if you aren't eating appropriately and not getting enough nutrients from food, a lot of times the supplements won't even be readily absorbed into your body. I want to put that forward.
I just want to say you're the second person in the last little bit that we've had on the show to talk about how people, it almost has become like a culture of people relying on supplements. And then also, like you said before, like, oh, my friend was taking it, so I started taking it. And now they're on 20 supplements. They don't know why. They don't know if they interact with each other. They haven't seen a healthcare practitioner to put it together. They saw what was trending on TikTok and they're taking all these things. So I
Right.
just want to second what you're saying, that supplements are meant to supplement, right? Not replace. The first is whole foods, right? Let's get what we can from our foods. Of course, if we have health issues where we're having problems digesting and assimilating, that's where the supplements come in to help supplement to heal. So we could go back to the foods. But just watching that right now, especially I believe for women, when they're starting to search for those answers, when they can't find them, they're just kind of following, oh, this trend, the friend's doing this supplement, and next thing you know, they're taking tons. So having a naturopath or someone to check in with to make sure that it is appropriate and customized and holistic for them and their whole body. And that it isn't the main, it hasn't become a food source.
Right. And speaking about whole foods, I think that's also a really important area. I mean, food is getting so expensive now. And, after spending the whole summer in Canada, I didn't realize how expensive groceries are in Canada.
Mm.
Accessibility to good food is so difficult for so many. I think that we also don't want to demonize, um, you know, food sources. Of course, if we can eat as much local as possible, but does every single thing have to be labeled organic? Maybe not. If you can't afford it, doesn't mean don't eat at all. But
Yeah.
do what you can. A lot of times there are things that are very easy and much more cost effective to incorporate for protein, for fiber, canned legumes, canned or even if you can get bagged dried legumes and you soak them and you can cook them, it takes much longer. But there are things, canned fish, if you can't get availability of fresh fish, good source of omega-3s and all those little small fish like mackerel, sardines,
My
anchovy.
dad loves sardines. I can't jump on it, but it is one of his favorites.
And it's even learning how to supplement with not with supplements, but supplement with like really interesting sauces. So sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, sardines are tough, but maybe not all brands of sardines are tough. There are very different flavors depending on what region, what flavors are in them. But I like to make sure that they are cold. I find that when they're cold, they don't have as much of a fishy taste. Add a lot of lemon juice, add a lot of acid. Acid is really good at breaking down. I'm a huge foodie, so when I talk about food, we can go down a whole rabbit hole, but it's like learning how to not eliminate all the foods in your diet, but how to eat them properly. And I will tell you, I come from a family that suffers from diabetes. I was diagnosed with prediabetes from a fairly young age. Um, the prescription medications were not really working for me. And in fact, I had a doctor tell me, I want you to change the way you approach nutrition before we start putting you on heavy doses of medication, which
Beautiful.
well, that I had a physician who did that because it made my life much more difficult in that I wasn't just thrown a pill that I could take to like drop my hemoglobin A1C, but I also really started doing a deep dive into research and learning about food and whole food and how to nourish my body in appropriate ways, but not eliminate all the things that I love to eat as well. I am a dessert and pastry queen. I'm just going to throw it out there. I love dessert, but I've learned now how to appreciate dessert and appreciate it appropriately and eat it after eating other things first so that my blood sugar doesn't spike as much. And I learned about why my blood sugar was spiking. I learned why I was getting exhausted like halfway through the day when I thought that I had already eaten, you know, a small meal and it should like help sustain me throughout the day. I learned that no, things are metabolizing too quickly, getting into my bloodstream, and I'm getting blood sugar crashes and getting
Mm.
exhaustion. And I'm learning, I've learned through over a decade of experience and over almost 20 years of research and working with not only primary care and Western trained physicians, but practitioners that are also educated in Eastern philosophies and methodologies so that I can really understand how the body works, and the yin and yang of just like, you know, cooling foods and warming foods and eating in balance and kind of keeping your body in homeostasis as much as possible. So to me, whole foods really is not about shunning foods that aren't, in it, like shunning all foods that aren't like fancy and organic and like really inaccessible for people who are feeding families. And for a lot of people right now, the economy is not great. Like, let's not try to turn this wellness industry into only those that have the privilege and can afford luxury. But let's try to incorporate hacks and tips into simple everyday things that everyone can think about to add into their day. So when I talk about fitness, it's not about join the fanciest gym unless you can. And if that's what works for you, that works for you. But it's like get out and move and walk. Walking is free.
Walking is free. Yeah. Okay. So perfect. That brings us right to our next tip and supporting that mind and body holistically with some of these tips. So you said walking, movement, walking's free. Give us some other ones. I know you've already given us some, but tell us
Sure.
a couple of other ways we can support ourselves holistically through perimenopause.
Right. So I'd say movement is key, and not all movement is the same. Don't force yourself to do something that you don't want to do. There's a ton going on social media right now saying you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to achieve this. If you don't, you're going to like not have muscle mass and you're going to get this at late age. Yes, there are certain things you should be doing, but making sure that you just move. Most people are not moving enough now, especially after COVID. People are in front of their screens for much
Yeah.
too long. Get out, try to interact with somebody in person and just get moving. I know it's really hard, especially in Canada, especially in countries where it's extremely cold all the time. It's really hard to move, but you know what else you can do, which a lot of people don't think about doing and they don't do after the age of 12, is jumping jacks. If you can do jumping jacks in your house, all you need is a very small space. You need to be like, take in mind your joints, take in mind,
You could even do it without jumping. You could step,
yeah,
step, reach,
you can do
reach, right?
steps. You
Like
can do
what
a lot of things. You can do
Stairmaster
jumping.
without the
It's
stair.
not fun. It's not sexy. So, I mean, a lot of wellness right now is about all these,
Mhm.
aspirational programs that sound really fun and sexy and like pretty and I don't know, uh, they're highly unattainable and not that sustainable. So really incorporating simple practices. A couple other tips: hydrate more. Drink. Most people are not drinking enough water.
Oh
There,
God, my green tea and my water bottle. And normally I would also have a second water bottle here, but I've emptied it already today.
I would say that between movement and hydration, and the last piece I'm going to put in is fiber intake. Most people are not eating enough fiber in general. They said the North American Heart or American Heart Association says that most Americans, and I think Canadians as well, are only taking about half the recommended amount of fiber intake that you should be taking daily.
Oh, and that means we are not getting the right bowel movements, which means the toxins are not getting out. Stuff stays in the colon, it ferments. Oh, all the bad things start to happen from there. And so, what are a couple of fiber foods that you would recommend that people could eat?
Right. So there are two types of fiber. There's insoluble fibers, which are what you typically think of when you think of fiber. You think of that all brand ad from when you were a kid. You're like, gross, this looks disgusting. Or anything that's like a big leafy green vegetable, chard, kale, celery. This is like a broom that's sweeping everything through the gut. Then you have soluble fiber. These are things like chia seeds, lentils, chickpeas, quinoa, legumes that typically what they do, avocado is another great one. It bulks up your stool in your colon, and it absorbs water so that your stool can pass much more smoothly through the gut. So most people are definitely not taking enough soluble fiber. An excellent source of soluble fiber is psyllium husk. What is psyllium husk? It's better known as Metamucil. Metamucil, pretty gross when you take it in liquid and let the liquid sit there for too long. Another way you can take it is through pill form. But what soluble fiber is really good for as well is to help with cardiovascular, prevent cardiovascular disease and blood sugar spikes and insulin resistance. So what it basically does is it binds to bad cholesterol and it lets it pass out of your body. And it also helps with blood sugar spikes. So when you eat something that, like a croissant, love croissants, it will help prevent the metabolism, it helps prevent the carbs from metabolizing as quickly and the sugars going into your bloodstream. It slows all of that down. Psyllium husk is like the cheapest thing that you can have as soluble fiber. But if you can't take psyllium husk, then look for it in foods. And those are generally your beans and your legumes, your lentils, your sweet potatoes, avocados, chia seeds. You can look more up.
I love it. I love it. And guys, so let's get that fiber in. So many incredible benefits from it. She just told you so many different foods, educated you on the different kinds. It's one thing that we're super low on. And then if you think how important it is for our gut health, as well as to stabilize and regulate our blood sugar levels, that will give you your energy spikes or drops throughout the day. But also the overall gut health is our second brain. So if the gut's not functioning, we're not absorbing those nutrients, and then the brain's not functioning the same. That brain fog and stuff, a lot of it has to do with the gut health. So I love it. Let's move more. Let's hydrate more. Let's eat more fiber. We can meditate, have that attitude of gratitude. You talked about the mindset and having seeing through things through the lens of gratitude, how important that is, because we do know that through perimenopause, there is a lot of hormone changing, and that means mood changing. And when we can come with that attitude of gratitude, and it's not that we're putting on rose-colored glasses, it's that we're choosing our perception and lens that we are experiencing the world through. And that's something you get to do. And if you have a gratitude practice, amazing. It's just the attitude of gratitude is choosing to have that perception and that lens that no matter what's happening, we can choose to harvest the good and forget the rest, and pick out what we can be grateful for about it. First of all, I will just say we are here in 2 different countries, meeting on Zoom. We got to meet at a women's connecting networking event weekly. We both have beautiful homes. We are on the internet. The sun is shining. I have clean water, filtered water that came from my tap. Like, there's so many things that I could sit here and be grateful for about. And that's that attitude of gratitude. It's just really, sometimes we have to pause and look around to say, there's everything in here I could point to, and I could find a way to be grateful for about it. And so I love the saying, harvest the good, forget the rest, have that attitude of gratitude. So I think that's one of the biggest things to help support us. And I know as my mom went through perimenopause and menopause, the mindset work that she did was one of the key things that helped her through. And that's when she found Bob Proctor and found The Secret and the Law of Attraction, and started helping us reframe our thinking everything. And so instead of, if we would talk about what we didn't want, she would say, do you want more of that? And I would say no. Then she would say, well, then don't talk about it. What would you like to be grateful for? And she would just help us learn to have an attitude of gratitude and change our perception. So it was a huge tool that helped her. And then it also helped reframe how I was seeing and experiencing my life. So, so important.
I couldn't agree more. You said this so beautifully. I was thinking once about gratitude practices. I was speaking to a woman who's a mother, and she had no idea what to even do, how to start being grateful in thinking about herself. And I thought, well, what is something that you could do with your children? Maybe even once a week, because she works very hard. She doesn't typically have dinner with her children during the week, but she does get to have meals with her children on the weekends. I grew up in a religious family, so we would say grace before dinner. She did not grow up religious, so I did not talk about grace before dinner, but I thought about, hey, what if you just started before dinner, have your children to say something about being grateful for the food that they're eating tonight and that they can eat together.
Love that.
I love that idea, because then that is really bringing the gratitude practice towards the whole family. So it's something that they can share. Again, it's a free activity, but it also changes the mindset that the kids are just not taking the food for granted, but it's looking at where did the food come from, who prepared the food, and that the fact that everyone can get together and share a meal together, because they could afford the time to be together. So that could be a simple gratitude practice that people could start thinking about.
I love that. That's beautiful. Potentially saying grace and the gratitude. We don't have to, I love to do that on Thanksgiving, but why does it have to be just Thanksgiving? Why not every meal?
Right.
Or even once a week?
It's not the only time you eat.
Yeah.
It's probably when you eat a lot more.
You sure do.
That's the day when your whole like nutrition and mindfulness practice and all those things kind of go out the door. But at the same time, you can still try to be grateful every day for having to be able to share a meal with somebody else.
Yeah, I love it. I know you're pressed for time, so we have one more tip, a great gift from Andrea, as well as our favorite book recommendation. So the third tip you wanted to share, which is something when I was working as a kinesiologist and nutritionist in a clinic downtown, all the clients that I was supporting, this was one of the things that they relied heavily on, is getting their blood work done, working with it with the naturopath so that they could have their own customized plan. So what does it mean to get annual blood work done and have biomarkers checked regularly?
Right. So if you're in the US and you have a health insurance plan, you should be covered for one annual blood test from your primary healthcare physician or even an urgent medical clinic. I advise that you get that done. In Canada, that is also covered by all Canadian health insurance. You do not need supplemental insurance to get the annual blood test done. A lot of people are scared to get them done because they actually don't want to live knowing what symptoms they have. But I firmly encourage everybody to do it so that you can have more agency and control about what's going on with your health, because then you can start dialing in and asking questions. And if your primary healthcare physician is one that you don't feel comfortable asking, go get a second opinion. If they're giving you recommendations that you just in your gut, you know your health best, you do not agree with, go get a second opinion. Doesn't mean go immediately to an online second opinion. Go talk to another physician. Go start looking at functional medicine. Functional medicine is very expensive. So that isn't something that I will say is accessible for everyone. And this is why I want to build PERIBLOOM to create a membership-based approach so that you can get more access to good functional practitioners in the city that you're in. But besides that, just getting a baseline, especially during this period of time where your hormones are changing, where your body is changing, understanding your thyroid health, understanding your blood sugar levels, understanding your lipids and cardiovascular health. These are really important areas to dial into, because in this stage in your life, as your hormones are changing, you can be more predisposed to getting bone density issues, cardiovascular issues, insulin resistance issues, and thyroid issues. And you really want to make sure that these are things that you are generally at a good baseline level. What does a good baseline level mean? I mean, this is another area that I'd really like to solve, because our ranges are much too broad right now. But get the blood tests first, because without any information, then you're just working with a blank slate.
Yeah, I love that. And I saw so many of these ladies. It was a clinic specifically for menopause. That was her specialty. And I saw so many of these ladies. They were all very successful business owners. I got to see them thrive through menopause and perimenopause. And so instead of struggling and leaving the workforce, I instead were doing all the things that you're saying and thriving and expanding their business and raising their children and living that fast-paced life. And exactly as we said at the beginning, being able to do both. So I love these tips, you guys. Please connect with Andrea. Check out PERIBLOOM. It is such an incredible thing that you are creating, and a big gap in the market that needs to be filled. So thank you for that. And then you've got a free 28-day recalibration calendar for them, where in like less than 5 minutes a day, they can start to recalibrate their energy, their mood, their everything through and thrive through perimenopause. So tell us a little bit about that. And then your favorite book, Adrenal Thyroid Revolution by Dr. Aviva Ram.
Right. So the 28-day recalibration calendar is really simple, 28 prompts. You don't have to do them and follow the calendar like 1 through 28. You can do whatever you feel like doing, but they're just really, really simple tips and tricks that can start getting your body into like just a different mindset and just for whole body health. So it's really easy. I know, Heather, you've been doing some of these tips and tricks, and they're really simple, and hopefully they can help start you getting interested in understanding your whole body. And my book recommendation, Adrenal Thyroid Revolution by Dr. Aviva Ram, is the first book that really started me on this transformational journey with my health. When I was diagnosed with prediabetes, before I was 35 years old, my doctor told me I really had to change my lifestyle. And I had already been doing what I thought was good exercise, good fitness, good nutrition. And she comes in with a very, very strong Western medically trained approach, backed by also a very strong history from her family of Eastern methodologies, and just work and a focus on women's reproductive health. So I would say she's such a wealth of knowledge. I don't know her personally. She's probably on my top list of women I would love to meet at some point. And she was really the start of this whole journey for me. So I give her a lot of credit for writing that book.
Oh, that's incredible. I just had a vision where you're like doing an opening and she's one of the keynote speakers that's like helping you grow your company. I'm so excited for you again. Just thank you so much for what you do, for who you are, what you're creating, your knowledge you're sharing in the world, the conversations you're bringing to the forefront, and supporting women to be able to thrive, to know that it's just a transition that we get to grow through. It's not the end of our journey. So I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heather. This was so much fun. I love your energy. I love your podcast, and I look forward to talking again.
Yeah, of course. We'll have to have you go back again once you've got even more out and you're ready to come back and share what the next things you've created. We'd love to have you come back. So thank you so much for being on the show.
And have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And remember, everybody, stay happy, healthy, wealthy. Expect magic and miracles. And remember, what's the best that can happen? We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.